In a quiet countryside village tucked between rolling hills and distant mountains, far away from the rush and pressure of modern city life, there lived a young man named Ethan, just 26 years old, whose life looked perfectly ordinary from the outside but felt endlessly heavy on the inside, because his mind never seemed to rest. From the moment he opened his eyes each morning, thoughts flooded in without permission, dragging him back to moments he wished he could change and pushing him foreign into moments about future he could not control, leaving him feeling exhausted even after a full night's sleep, unable to truly relax, unable to enjoy silence, and slowly forgetting how it felt to smile without effort, as if his thoughts were constant waves crashing against a shore, his mind with no pause in between. He often sat alone for long periods, staring into space, feeling disconnected from a world around him, carrying a quiet sadness he could not explain, until one afternoon, while wandering through a small market nearby, he overheard a conversation that caught his attention, where a local vendor spoke to a passing traveler about an elderly man who once worked in the city as a respected mental health teacher, but had chosen to leave everything behind to live a simple life in a remote village near the hills, close to nature, where he now spent his days in silence, offering gentle guidance only to those who truly sought it. And something about that story stayed with Ethan long after the voices faded, planting the small after scent of hope inside it. So that night, instead of fighting his restless thoughts, he listened to them, realizing for the first time that perhaps his mind was not broken but simply misunderstood. And by morning he made a quiet decision to leave, packing only what he needed and setting out on a long journey across narrow paths, open fields, and forest trails, where each step away from its old routine felt like a small release, until after several days he reached a peaceful village surrounded by trees and self-sunlight, when the air felt light and time seemed to move slowly, and at the edge of the village he found a modest stone house covered in climbing plants, outside which an elderly man sat calmly, watching the sky with a presence that felt steady and grounded. And when Ethan finally spoke, admitting that his mind never stopped and that he was desperate for peace, the old man listened without interruption, then quietly stood and led him with hind hout. We fill the sin to a cat of water and with orange overflowing and place it carefully in Ethan's hands, instructing him to walk to the far end of the village and return without spelling a single drop, a task that seemed strange but simple enough. Yet as Ethan walked, he became completely absorbed in the cup, his steps slowing, his breathing steadying, his awareness narrowing until nothing else existed, not the distant sound of people, not the movement around him, only the present moment and the water he carried. And when he returned successfully, the old man asked what he had noticed along the way, and Ethan realized it could remember nothing at all except cup itself, to which the old man gently explained that this was a state of mind Ethan had been searching for, because when attention rests fully in the present moment, there is no space for regret or fear, no room for the endless noise of past and future. And as the meaning of those words settled in, Ethan felt a deep stillness rise within, a calm he had not experienced in years. And as the sun dipped behind the hills and yearning light softened the village, he thanked the old man and began the journey home, walking the same paths for feeling entirely different, lighter, clearer, and finally aware that peace was never something to chase or find somewhere else, but something that naturally appears when the mind stops running in loans. To stay here, now, in this very moment, please give a like and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one. Thank you for staring with this. See you in the next story with new thoughts and new lessons. Until then, stay well and stay peaceful.